Today's video is sponsored by War Thunder. Be sure to stay tuned to find out how new and returning players can unlock a week of premium play, free vehicles, XP boosters, and more as a special thanks for tuning in. I just finished what I think might be the most challenging build I've done on this channel. What we've got here is as close as I could get to an exact replica of my M1A1 Abrams clickbait from War Thunder. Let me tell you the story and show you how we got here. So about a month ago, the folks at War Thunder reached out to me with a collaboration opportunity to build up one of their in-game vehicles that they've released as a special partnership with Italeri. I've been playing War Thunder for years, and this is a scale modeling channel, obviously. Match made in heaven, let's do it. I chose to build up their M1A1 Abrams kit because the Abrams is a beast, and I haven't built one in quite some time, but also because of the in-game bonuses that come with this particular model kit. Each Italeri War Thunder model comes with a unique code to unlock 3 premium vehicles, vehicle rentals, a week of premium play, boosters, and a 500,000 Silver Lions, which is fantastic in its own right. But it also comes with an exclusive skin and trial of the M1A1 Clickbait premium tank that I already happen to own in the game. Now, I could have just built this guy up out of the box, no frills, nothing crazy, but I decided to get the stowage, the markings, the camouflage, all as close as possible to how this vehicle looks with the exclusive skin in the game. This was a real adventure, and I think you guys are hopefully going to dig it. So let's get over to the bench, and I'll show you how I did this. I began, as per usual with most 1/35th scale armor kits, with our lower hull assembly. Italeri gives us a 3-piece hull here rather than the bathtub style, so the first thing to do was to get that put together. Now, for some context here, part of the reason this project was such a crazy challenge for me was the timeline. My deal with War Thunder was to get this up by the end of June to help out with their summer marketing campaign, but Italeri, as you probably know, is an Italian company. They shipped me this kit from Italy, and this little devil got stuck in customs for a very long time. But it made it, and to hit my deadline, I had to knock this guy out in 5 days. So from the beginning, the heat was on. Most of the suspension arms were molded into the sides of our hull, so the bulk of time spent on our undercarriage here was dedicated to cementing, sanding, and attaching our 2-piece road wheels. This boxing from Italeri comes with options for both Lincoln-length plastic tracks or rubber band tracks. In this situation, I usually opt for the plastic tracks, but the detail on the rubber tracks, as you can see, is pretty much on par with their plastic alternative, so I made the decision to go with the rubber band option. With the side skirts on the Abrams, you can barely see the track run at all, so it's not really a big deal either way. And it was here that I ran into my first little predicament with this kit. The rubber band tracks were about a link or so too long. To accommodate for this, I lopped a few links off there and did a little bit of superglue surgery to seamlessly attach the new endpoints to our drive sprocket. And this worked out okay. Rinse and repeat for the other side of the tank, and our Abrams had her legs. At this point, I flipped ahead in the instructions a bit to cement the 2 halves of our main 120mm gun so they could cure for a while. The 2-piece barrel is not ideal, obviously, but it's not any different from what we see in most of the other similarly priced Abram kits on the market, so c'est la vie. A little careful seam cleanup, and we were in business. Back to our hull, one thing I was extremely impressed by with this Italeri kit was the anti-slip coating molded into the horizontal surfaces of the armor. The last Tamiya Abrams I built up didn't have that, and a little aftermarket product was required, so this was a nice surprise. Bravo on that one, Italeri. After our driver's hatch was attached, it was time to cement the top and bottom halves of our hull together. Aside from a little careful fitting of our headlights and brush guards, there wasn't too much to do on the front of the hull. Engine covers came next and slotted into place nicely back there. Back in 04, Italeri released an Abrams kit with some resin engine bay components, and I'm assuming this is a vestige of that older offering. Our Abrams, however, will have to rely on a power plant of a more hypothetical variety. With our hull nearly complete, it was time to attach these side skirt armor panels on either side of the tank. These come in large pieces and can be aligned without too much fuss, though there are no physical guide pins to aid with placement. Here I made one executive decision to keep the rearmost armor panels on these skirts. They're both removed on the in-game version of the tank, though with our little surgical maneuver on the tracks earlier, I figured it'd be worth leaving these on there just to prevent any of that from being visible. To wrap up our hull work, this rear exhaust panel needed to be assembled and mounted. This didn't fit super well and required a little bit of putty to clean up that upper gap. Finally, moving on up to our turret, the first main step here was to attach our rotating commander's cupola. I was a little skeptical at first of these little brackets you need to cement inside the turret to keep the cupola on, but I actually really like the way this allows the easy rotation of the full assembly. Around this time, I was able to start cementing together the rest of our main gun cradle and mantlet. These pieces had some simple grooves for aligning all the parts and were a little bit fiddly, but everything ended up shaping up nicely in the end. The finished gun tube also slotted in nice and snug. The actual mechanism for holding the main gun in place is just sandwiching the upper and lower halves of the turret together, so I went ahead and did that next. The fit was pretty solid, just a little putty needed towards the front of the gun mantlet where it meets the turret armor, and a quick test fit showed that that all was good. These turret baskets went on next, one on either side, and then these little plugs for the blowout ammo storage panels popped in like so. Each side basket post went on as its own piece. I kind of wish this had been one continuous basket because the positioning was once again a little fiddly, but it all worked out. After getting our commander and loader's hatches on the turret, buttoned up of course because this was replicating the vehicle in-game, I had to place the doors on, in the open position, for our gunner's optics. And then we were on to our rear stowage basket. Unfortunately, we've got this little mesh sheet here to cut out for the bottom of our basket. These are always a pain on modern vehicles, but we'll do what we gotta do. After some more fitting of the individual basket pieces, I was able to get that whole assembly popped on there without much trouble. And at this point, it was finally time to start customizing this model to make it look like the actual Clickbait skin from the game. A huge thank you to the good folks at War Thunder for sponsoring today's video. For military history enthusiasts like myself, this is one of those games you've just gotta give a shot. Even if you're not a big gamer, War Thunder is free to play. It's available on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile, so you can jump into the action on the device of your choice. And it's a fantastic way to explore the more than 2,500 armored vehicles, ships, fixed and rotary wing aircraft from the interwar period all the way up through the battlefields of the 21st century that they have available to play in the game. The level of detail that the developers have put into each and every module of these vehicles, the ammunition loadouts, how the machines handle in different game modes, you feel like a kid in a candy store. Even if you don't decide to pick up the kit we're building today, as a thank you for watching, new and returning players to War Thunder can use the code down in the description below to unlock a big old bonus bundle, including 3 premium vehicles to get you started or to help you grind through those tech trees, 7 days of premium and XP boosters to help unlock new vehicles even more efficiently, free custom vehicle skins, a unique Eagle of Valor vehicle decoration, and 100,000 silver lions just as icing on the cake. This offer is only valid for a limited time, so after the video, be sure to check out the link below to join the more than 70 million folks all over the world battling it out in War Thunder. With that said, let's get back to our build. The in-game model has 3 pairs of spare track links attached to each side of the turret, so I used some of our Lincoln length bits that we bypassed back during our hull assembly for this purpose instead. Clickbait also has a spare road wheel half mounted on either side of the rear stowage basket, so I popped a couple of those on there as well. This M1A1 has the auxiliary generator mounted on the back left of the turret, so that's slotted in just like so. And then I went ahead and attached both of our external turret guns. This Abrams, as most do, has a combat identification panel mounted on either turret cheek, so I went ahead and measured those out using the templates provided in the box and cut 2 rectangles out of a thin sheet of spare styrene that I had on hand. After a little cleanup, those cemented onto our turret nicely. Alright, our first proper accessory additions here. Our trusty Tamiya modern accessory set comes with a handful of things that we are going to need for this build, namely foam bedrolls, duffel bags, jerry cans, and boxes of MREs. Now, you can see on Clickbait, each one of the antennas has one of these blue bed mats wrapped around its base, which is a neat look, so I went ahead and carefully drilled out 2 of these rolls to fit a couple of guitar string antennas that we will mount onto the turret. I also cemented a variety of jerry cans, packs, duffel bags, and ammo cases, among some other little bits and pieces I had in the spare bin, to faithfully replicate the variety of stuff modeled onto this vehicle in War Thunder. A few little bits still aren't on there, including the iconic plastic lawn chair, but we will get to those later. This particular Abrams in the game is a quirky one. The variant is an M1A1HC, or Heavy Common, which was essentially an upgraded M1A1 used primarily by the Marine Corps in Iraq. There are 2 integral components on the game's tank that aren't included in this Italeri kit, so I had to borrow a couple of spares from a separate Tamiya Abrams kit. First of all, Clickbait is equipped with an active protective system, the AN-VLQ-6 missile countermeasure device. This is essentially a dazzler to confuse incoming infrared homing ATGMs, and the device actually works in-game. It's saved my skin quite a few times. So I stole the APS system from the Tamiya kit, and it surprisingly fit into place perfectly on the Italeri build. The other little quirk that this tank has is that it's fitted with the Marine Corps style of smoke launcher rather than the more triangular Army version included with the Italeri boxing. This change was also quickly remedied by stealing parts from the same Tamiya kit. One of my favorite aesthetic features on Clickbait is this little bit of rope wrapped around the APS module, so to replicate that, I used a bit of paracord cut to length and superglued that into position like so. And with all of that finally on there, it was time to start painting this big ol' thing. As always, step one was to coat the full kit with a coat of black primer to give us a nice clean base to work up from. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of our camo work, I need to address the elephant in the room when it comes to this exclusive skin that you unlock in the game when you buy this Italeri kit. The standard paint scheme that comes with Clickbait, if you just buy it regularly, is your regular old desert tan. The special scheme, the one that I'm replicating here, is an actual tricolor woodland camo that was used by a real tank of the 35th Armor Regiment, 1st Armored Division in Iraq back in 2003. So you're probably thinking, 1st Armored is an Army division, why does this tank have all these Marine Corps elements? Long story short, War Thunder morphed two existing tanks together in their inspiration for this vehicle. There's a real photo out there of a desert tan Marine Corps tank with bedrolls and the lawn chair up on the turret roof. I don't have rights to that, unfortunately, so I can't show it. And there's a real photo out there of this tricolor Army vehicle with the usual Army smoke launchers and no APS. So our Clickbait is a bit of a Frankenstein's monster, but that's the magic of video games. Not sure why they used this skin for a Marine Corps M1A1HC, but here we are. So with that in mind, I did still do my absolute best to capture the camo scheme on this model as accurately as possible to the real-life and in-game vehicle. Using a light bit of silver pencil, I freehand traced and labeled each camouflage blob to come back and fill in with the appropriate paint color. This was a tedious and time-consuming process, as I usually do my camo work freehand, but accuracy was important for this one. I began by filling in our brown camouflage blobs, and then came back to follow those up with our main green camo, leaving the black portions of primer to suffice for our black elements of this tricolor scheme. The green looks super bright, I know, but it'll get knocked down later in the process. Okay, camo applied. Wonderful. We're getting there. At this point, it was time for yet another very time-consuming process, all of our brush painting work. This video is getting long, so I won't go through every single color choice along the way, but as you'd expect, I kept my War Thunder garage up in the background so I could keep matching paints as I went along. And several hours later, all of our little detail bits were finally painted up, including a little freehand woodland camo work on our duffel bags in the rear stowage basket. Now it was time to prepare for our finishing stages. A coat of gloss varnish went down first to prep for decaling. This Italeri kit comes with all the marking options you need to replicate this exclusive skin, so I didn't have to stress about acquiring aftermarket decals for this project. Trusty Snow White Bull always makes an appearance, of course. Once those decals had settled and dried completely, I went ahead and hit the tank with another coat of gloss varnish to prep for a bit of weathering. For this project, step one was to sludge wash the vehicle with some Flory Dark Wash to help accentuate our details. This stuff works wonders for big, physically big projects like this because you can cover a lot of space quickly and the water-soluble product makes excess removal extremely easy. With our basic sludge wash complete, I hit the kit with yet another gloss coat to prep for our final weathering technique. I hit the whole kit with a coat of hairspray to act as our chipping medium, and then I followed that up with an all-over light misting of buff to help achieve this sort of dusty look that the vehicle has in-game. Once that was on there, I returned with a bit of tap water on a stiff bristled brush and literally chipped off some of the dust layer. This works really well to help replicate the look of dried rain streaks that have accumulated kicked up dust along the way, much like what we see on the in-game rendering of Clickbait. And once that last chipping phase was complete, it was time to spray the kit with a final matte varnish coat to seal in our work and knock down our excess shininess. The finishing touches for this project came in the last little decorations on Clickbait. First, she has 2 spools of wire slung over the rear of the tank. Using a bit of picture-hanging wire I had laying around, I snipped some to length and created 2 small rings to mount on the back there. Next, I had to fold 9 of these little paper MRE boxes from the Tamiya accessory kit to scatter all over the roof of our turret. And then, last but possibly most importantly, Clickbait has this super high-tech missile defense depleted uranium plastic lawn chair on the turret. This was key, people. With our lawn chair in place, literally all that was left to do was place all of our MREs using some PVA glue in as close as the same position as possible to what we see on our in-game model. And then, finally, I had achieved my own little 1/35th scale Clickbait out here in the real world in front of my computer screen rather than behind it. This project was a doozy. I admittedly do not like rushing modeling projects. 99% of the time it is not a good idea because you make mistakes, and that's just not the point of this hobby, but this was different. I make models on YouTube for a living, and that's crazy in itself, so I took the challenge and it was super fun. I hope you guys enjoyed watching this wacky process as well. If you'd like to pick up this Italeri kit or one of their other collaboration offerings with War Thunder, I will have a link down in the description below for you to check out. Now that this project is done, I'm going to take my little digital version of this guy out to cause a little chaos in realistic battles. Thank you for watching, my friends, and until next time, be well, happy building, cheers. Once again, a massive thank you to the folks at War Thunder for sponsoring today's build. Whether you're a new or returning player to War Thunder, be sure to take advantage of this limited time offer and unlock the full bonus pack we mentioned earlier using the link below. War Thunder is free to play on PC, PlayStation, Xbox, and mobile, and you never know, you might end up seeing me in my M1A1 out on the battlefield.